Dear members of the Parliament, dear representatives of nuclear industry, dear colleagues of the Swiss Nuclear Forum, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to welcome and to introduce the distinguished guest speakers of our annual general meeting, His Excellency Rafael Mariano Grossi. A warmly welcome to you. Thank you so much to have you here. Before I introduce DG Grossi in more detail, let me first thank him most warmly for accepting our invitation and for finding time for us in his extremely busy schedule, which reflects the scale of the challenges facing the EAEI today. DG Grossi was appointed on December 2019. In September 2023, the General Conference approved by acclamation his reappointment to serve a second four-year term. Before assuming office as the IAEA Director General, DG Grossi was Ambassador of Argentina to Austria and to the IAEA and the other Vienna-based international organizations. In this position, he was appointed President-designate of the 2020 NPT Review Conference, and from 2014 to 2016, he served as chair of the Nuclear Suppliers Group, the NSG. In 2015, DG Grossi chaired the diplomatic conference of the Convention of Nuclear Safety, which adopted the Vienna Declaration on Nuclear Safety, an important milestone in strengthening nuclear safety worldwide following the 2011 Fukushima nuclear accident, a milestone which also resulted from a Swiss initiative. From 2010 to 2013, Mr. Grossi served as Assistant Director General for Policy and Chief of Cabinet at the IAEA and under the previous Director General Yukiya Amano. Prior to this, he held the position of Political Affairs Director General in the Argentinian Foreign Ministry. That was from 2007 to 2009. DG Grossi was Chief of Cabinet at the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons in The Hague from 2002 to 2007. Prior to this, he served in the Argentinian Foreign Ministry as head of embassy in Belgium and Luxembourg from 1989 to 2002, and as Argentine representative to NATO from 1998 to 2001. Mr. Grossi joined the Argentinian Foreign Ministry in 1985, and he holds, and that's important for us in Switzerland, he holds a PhD degree in International Relations, International History and Politics from University of Geneva. That's why it's important. Graduate Institute of International and Development Studies, from which he also received his master's degree. So, a long career in international security policy and especially in the nuclear field. DG Grossi will speaking on the following topic: global energy issues, what role for nuclear power? After his lecture, we will open the discussion with you, and our managing director, Lucas Abbey, will moderate that discussion. And of course, you also can ask, and you are invited to ask questions in English or in French. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me Mr. DG Grossi. Warmly welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. Thank you. Great pleasure, great pleasure. Well, good evening, dear friends. Thank you, Mr. President, for such a generous introduction. Um, as you were saying, uh, Switzerland is really part of my life in many respects. It was my first diplomatic posting, and you know that in our career, a first diplomatic posting is like a first love. We never forget it. I had children in Switzerland. I studied in Switzerland. So many ways in which a person gets to really know a country. So coming back, and you know, my already long, as you were saying, career has brought me and continues to bring me back to your beautiful country frequently. And every time I come, memories of this or that, of Zurich or Bern, of Lucerne or Genf, or all the places that I used to live for a long time, come back. So thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the Swiss, to the Swiss Nuclear Forum for having me to talk about something that I believe is very important for you, it's very important for us, but most importantly, it's very important for the world. We, of course, when it comes to debates about energy globally, we are heavily dependent on the circumstances that are the signs of the times. And what are the signs of the times? These times that are living, which are not easy times, certainly, when we look at what is happening all over the world. But when it comes to energy and what we do about energy in Europe and elsewhere, of course, there have been lately two big factors that have converged in a very special way, and I will try to say from my perspective how this is affecting what is happening all over the world. One, of course, has been, which was brewing, I would say, for many, many years, the issue of climate change, global warming, all these debates that are taking place globally, which already were indicating clearly, and in any case, for those who are in nuclear, you hear me from this, I don't need to stay here, I think, so I can come here. I'm closer to you. So we knew that nuclear energy could play, and was playing actually, a very important role in this configuration of the energy debates. But it wasn't easy, and we all know it. I always remember that when I became Director General, as you were reminding us, Mr. President, in December 2019, it was very close to the date of one of these famous conferences of the parties of the Climate Change Framework Convention, the COPs, the famous COPs. And that COP should have taken place in Chile. It couldn't be in Chile because there was some social unrest there, so it came to Europe, it came to Spain. And I told my team, well, we go to Madrid, we go to the COP. It was COP 25. And the first thing they told me was, no, please don't do that. You don't want to start like this. You don't want to start like this. It will be a big flop. They will hate you. And I think they were relatively right, because nuclear was not very welcome, but hearing that convinced me that I had to go. Because we knew that things had to change, and we knew that among the solutions, nuclear had to be recognized as what it was. And then, of course, things continue. I don't want to do a story of the COPs. But what I think is a real watershed, a real change in the international debate is what happened in Dubai last December. Because in Dubai, all countries, not nuclear countries, not the friends of nuclear, all countries agreed in the final document that nuclear should be accelerated. So don't let anybody tell you that this is not the global consensus, because now this is the global consensus, that nuclear energy together alongside renewables, which are of course extremely important, should be accelerated. So it took 30 COPs to come to this conclusion. But better late than never. And it happened. It happened because many things are happening in the world, and I suppose also, and I do hope also in Switzerland. What we see, the IAEA, is this very important trend, this regain of real interest, and not only interest, action about nuclear. Nuclear, of course, is already providing 50% of the clean energy which is produced in Europe, 50%. And it's 25 or 27% of the clean energy in the world. And that in a declining curve. That in a declining curve, which has been, as you know, taking place for the last 15 years or so. Whether things are going to change or not, it's what what is happening now and what is being decided now. In Dubai, alongside this global consensus at the diplomatic table, there was, and I participated in that, there was a meeting of 20-some countries that committed to triple their nuclear percentage, nuclear production. Some say, well, this is too much. Do we have the supply chain to do that? Do we have the money to do that? Do we have the international finance ready to do that? In any case, whether this happens or not, I think this is a clear indication of where we want to go. And I think when it comes to the energy debates and the energy sector, knowing what the political direction is indispensable. Knowing that this is the political decision of these countries, the United States, France, many countries in Europe, this has enormous, and not only then, in many other places as well. And if we take by region what is happening, we can see that clearly. In the United States, something very important has happened in the Biden administration, with a clear decision to increase nuclear. For those who follow energy debates in the United States, you will not be surprised that I recall that the general position of the Democratic Party was against nuclear energy, at least continuing what was there, but not invest more. This has changed. The Secretary of Energy is part of all the processes we have in the IAEA, and they have very strongly committed to replace the fleet and to go for more nuclear. This is also the case in Canada. When we come closer to you, of course, and you are very aware of all these things, what we see in Europe is undeniable. And in Europe, if I may have here a digression, one of the important drivers, I believe, which will not be surprising, is the emergence of the issue as a new element in this international debate of what we call euphemistically, maybe, energy security. Energy security. What is energy security? In reality, is code word for autonomy. It's code word for not being dependent. It's code word in particular for countries in Central and Eastern Europe, where I live. In Vienna, we see it very clearly for Czechia, for Bulgaria, for Romania, for Hungary, and even for Poland, which was the only country in Eastern Europe which did not have nuclear energy, to embrace nuclear projects, go for more when they have it, and in any case, very clearly go in this direction. So we can see the configuration in this part of the world. Of course, needless to mention the real drivers as we speak, as of today, of nuclear growth, which is basically China, of course, with 55 nuclear reactors in operation and 26 in construction. Very soon, China will be number one in terms of number. They have, what they tell me, is they have 40 more planned. You're listening to me. So they are going to be around 200 nuclear power plants within the next 20 years or so. India, where I was very recently, the same. Russia, of course, with a steady percentage of nuclear and growing, and Russia having become in spite of the war and the current circumstances, having become the #1 vendor in the world, as you know, with important projects in Bangladesh, in Turkey, of course, very important, or in Egypt, and in other places too, where their projects are more embryonic, but there is a clear intention to move towards that. Another space where nuclear was not self-evident, but it is a reality, of course, is the Gulf. And the glaring, I would say, example of the United Arab Emirates is there, defying every prediction. United Arab Emirates 10 years ago had zero nuclear, zero infrastructure, zero expertise, zero regulator, and now they have 4 nuclear power plants. And 25% of the energy in that country is nuclear. And they are planning to go for more, perhaps in the form of SMRs for desalination. And the next in that part of the world will certainly be Saudi Arabia, which is already working intensively with us in preparation for what could be a very important package of contracts to establish an important nuclear program in the country. So all of this, dear friends, is a clear indication of what is happening in the world, not of what is desirable, not what may happen, and I'm going to talk about this in a second, but what the reality is right now. And right now, what we see is this: keeping the current fleets with long-term operation being the cheapest, non-brainer in terms of having a balanced nuclear energy mix, which is recognized by all. I was pleasantly surprised when in March, you may have seen, and perhaps some of you attended or followed that, I organized the first ever Nuclear Energy Summit in Brussels. There had never been one, 70 years of nuclear commercial operation, and never ever had there been a summit where heads of state would come only to talk about nuclear energy in the form of a summit with 37 heads of state or government. And I was surprised, pleasantly surprised to hear the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, talking favorably about nuclear energy. I was surprised. But again, better late than never. And this happened. I saw it. I was there. She was sitting beside me. Very good. Very good. But of course, things have to happen. This is the snapshot, today's snapshot, what is happening now. What may happen in the future, and the new nuclear debate about which I'm sure you are aware or following very intensively. And here we are entering in interesting domains that are finally coming to fruition. The first, of course, is modularity. Modularity and SMRs, as the president was reminding, I started in this business in the 1980s. Already then, and those who were working in the sector may remember that there was talk about small reactors and small modular reactors and things like that. But these were, of course, presentations, not PowerPoint, because PowerPoint did not exist at that time, but there were slides, maybe, I suppose, I don't know, cardboard things. But this idea existed already at that time. But now we have SMRs that exist. We have many more that are planned. The IEA is the international reservoir, if you want, of the global catalog of SMRs. And in this catalog is like a vademecum of SMRs. We have more than 80 designs. Of course, perhaps not more than 8, not 80, will see the light of the day, but this indicates the intensity of the effort here. And more than the effort or the intention, money is being put and invested now on SMRs. Contracts are being signed. Of course, there is a sense of urgency all of a sudden. And people say, well, we want to see these SMRs. Where are they? Where are they? There is one in China, there is one in Russia. Perhaps it's high time that the West also comes up with a viable design. And there are a few. There is even a SMR European Alliance that you may be aware of. And here we will see how and which project, perhaps the French New World, will be the one gaining momentum and gaining support from subcontractors and other companies across Europe, including Switzerland, I'm sure. So that is one. In the United States, different, of course, approaches in design and in engineering, notably NuScale being one, or TerraPower from Bill Gates' company. But there are many others. In my own country, even, there is an SMR, the CAREM, being built. So all of this indicates the state of spirit and the state of the engineering debate all over the world. An important element that is shaping up, and I want to mention it because it's going to be a very prevalent factor in the energy market, is the big push coming from the IT sector. Already now we are working, IEA, we are working with Google, we are working with Microsoft, we are working with the big companies that are demanding really with a sense of urgency and immediacy, SMRs for purpose, à la carte, we would say, because data centers are incredibly power hungry and they need this. So what we see now is these companies coming to the industry and asking for this type of reactors as a way to realize or materialize the many projects they have in Europe. As you may know, I'm just coming from Finland, where the Minister of Economy was telling me that they are in negotiation precisely with Google for the biggest data center in Europe, and they want an SMR as a condition to have it. So is this going to happen? Is this going to be a reality? In any case, this is not coffee talk. This is projects that are being analyzed. 10 days ago, I was in London, invited by whom? Very strange, invited by Lloyd's Register, the insurers, the motherhood of insurers in the world. You know why? Because they have come to the conclusion that the maritime industry, the merchant fleets all over the world are going to massively reconvert to nuclear over the next 20, 25 years. And of course, they are preparing for that. So all of that presents us with a scenario that I believe is very important for a country like Switzerland. Switzerland is a country that has a tremendous know-how and experience in the sector, which should be preserved. Of course, it will be for the Swiss to decide how to do it, but it would be very strange not to see the development and Switzerland taking advantage of this wave that is having nuclear at the center of so many interesting processes in the world. Switzerland, of course, has not only been, and it's the place of perhaps the oldest operating nuclear power plant. Best now, I visited that, showing how you can have a station operating for close to a century, which is quite unique. But of course, these are debates that are taking place, as I know, in the country, and I am pretty optimistic because the signs are out there, and they are very clear for all to see. Even in Europe, where with one exception, phasing out nuclear energy is no longer an option. So this is what we see. This is what we see from the IEA. Our perspective is not the perspective of a nuclear lobbyist, and we do not have commercial interest in this. But we do believe in the peaceful uses of nuclear energy. We do believe in the benefits that this will bring. So, dear friends, I hope this very, I would say, wide brushes of what we are seeing in the world are inspiring for what I hope will be a good exchange with you. Maybe before closing, simply to say that very, very important against this backdrop, and in this the IEA and myself personally are very invested, is that we do not have an accident in Zaporizhia. What is happening in Ukraine and the occupation of the biggest nuclear power plant in Europe is tragic. And this is why we at the IEA decided that we will not be observing from the sidelines, but rather get involved. And as we speak, team of the IEA is there. I'm there, as you may have seen in the news, quite frequently, and we are trying to avoid the worst, which would take this positive trend back considerably. So let me thank you again, Mr. President, for having hosted me, for having allowed me in this very distinguished forum of nuclear colleagues to tell you how we are seeing the energy debates in the world, how we are seeing the nuclear industry develop, and delighted if there is any interest to answer to any questions or comments that you may have. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Your Excellency, thank you very much for your great lecture. It's a pleasure having you here today. I have to tell you, many of the people here only came for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure...
Very honored.
So there are two. We are two. So I'm sure there are questions.
Yes.
So before we start, just a short introduction. If you have a question, please raise your hand so that we can give you a microphone. You can ask your question, as the President already told, in French or in English. Or if you ask in German, I'm happy to translate, so give me some time. So do we have questions? Yes, please.
Okay, let us start the fire. Well, I would like to say, for the promotion of nuclear energy, science and technology, you need education.
Yes.
And I have scanned a little bit the website of the Atomic Energy Agency and discovered that you have started the job at a very interesting level. In fact, as Belgium, you have as main partner for the education the Center of Mol.
Yes.
Sika CEN.
Sen, yes.
And on the other side of the big water, you have the Canadian with the University of Hamilton. Then the question is, do you plan to increase this kind of collaboration around the world, or do you want to centralize education in Vienna? The future.
Should I respond to this question, or you want to?
Please go ahead.
Yes, please. Thank you very much for the question. It's very important. Training, education, capacity building is absolutely essential. Perhaps not in Switzerland or in Belgium, but in many parts of the world. And no, the answer is we are not planning to centralize anything. On the contrary, because the market is so vast that it would be, frankly, impossible to do it in that way. And we also feel that this is a good, if I can use the word, a bit interested, is a good tactic, because when we go to distant places in Asia or in Latin America or in places like that, we find institutions that want to be part of the effort. And we, of course, welcome that. When we say education at the same time and capacity building and training, we must also be reminded of the fact that nuclear is vast. And when we say nuclear, we are thinking about nuclear engineering, of course, and the hardcore part of the agenda. But for us, it's also oncology, it's also radiotherapy, it's also water management, it's also insect sterilization, it's also all of these activities are also all of these activities which are incredibly important and for which many countries come to the IAEA. Because, of course, for highly sophisticated economies like the Swiss economy, this is not valid, but we are 180. And you can imagine that from those countries, what many really want is crops that are resistant to droughts. And we do that in our laboratories in Seibersdorf, is knowing whether you can drink water or it has arsenic, and we can do it with isotopic hydrology. All of these things which are also indispensable. So education and training, and importantly, nuclear law. You know that there was no curricula on nuclear law. Although there are many specialists around the world, and we have started teaming up with key universities all over the world to develop a curricula in nuclear law.
Thank you very much. Are there other questions? Yes, please.
Hello.
Thank you very much for honoring us with those supportive words and let's say an optimistic outlook. Our nuclear hearts needed that in Switzerland, of course. You mentioned that you recently started a collaboration with the IT industry, Microsoft, Amazon, etc., data centers. This field opens up probably a totally new dimension of commercialization of nuclear reactors. Can you elaborate?
Yes.
Provide some details. What are the discussions between IEA and those companies? In which direction it goes?
Well, there are many aspects to it, many aspects. One aspect, I would say, is because they want to know more. And these are big corporations, more powerful than many countries. So they don't actually need us, but what they need is our impartial perspective. Because they go, of course, they go to the vendors, they go to the companies directly. They are that, because when you say Bill Gates is the same person, or NewScale, or any other company that is working on any of the projects. But what they come to us for is for support in an analysis, in an iBird's view of the world. They want to understand norms, safety standards, security, all these things. And for that, of course, they need to, they can partner with a country. They could go to NC, for example, and have an agreement. But quite clearly, they also, because maybe they have agreements bilaterally, they want to come to us. And perhaps some projects that could have our advice on what is best in terms of the different alternatives that they have. You know that the IAEA has one of the most powerful energy modeling capacities that exist. We even lend it to IRENA, to our renewables friends. So we do energy planning for countries, even when they do not use nuclear, all right? Because we have the analysis, the intelligence of the grid, etc., technology, supply chain, etc., etc. So we do this service. So I think it's a little bit related to that.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Yeah, Robert Faltermeyer from GE Switzerland.
Hello.
So you are talking about SMRs and
Yeah.
technologies, and I'm wondering what is most promising technologies in the area of SMRs?
Well, I think there are many designs that are very, very promising. The issue here, I believe, is there are a couple of things. One has to do with the licensing. In the case of the United States, that takes time. And this is another issue that we are working on. If we have time and there is interest, I can describe what we are doing about licensing and harmonization, which is a deficit we have currently in terms of how the world nuclear regulation operates. It may take years to license a project. So that is one issue. So we know, for example, that in the case of NuScale, they have been able to license. So they have licensed not to construct, but for the design and pre-construction. So this is one important factor, I would say. And then is the financing, of course. And that is another chapter that we can maybe, if there is interest, discuss. Because some projects, and there was one in Idaho, you may be familiar with it, which failed to take off. Doesn't mean that the entire SMR project is failing. There was a configuration, there were not enough subscribers, and the project managers decided to cut their losses and to stop with that. But there are many things. There are projects in many countries, for example, in Poland, to replace the coal stations with nuclear, with SMRs. So many companies are working on that. So I think there are a few. If you ask me, really, I wouldn't say there is this one that is going to be the successful one. The American ones are, in general, good. We have to see what happens with the Chinese high-temperature gas-cooled reactor. This is a promising technology. I've seen the one that they have operating. My impression is that they are not so keen on commercializing that. They have different designs, but they are not so keen on commercializing. The Russians were, but of course now with the war, the situation has become very, very difficult for the exports for Rosatom, quite clearly. So they will have to see. But there are a few. Welcome.
Yes, please, Ruth.
Hello.
Ruth Williams, President of Women in Nuclear Switzerland.
Hello.
I've heard increasingly people say that an organization like Women in Nuclear is not necessary anymore in our modern world, in the nuclear industry, where we all work under equal rights. And I would like to know what you think about such statements. And second, I would like to know what the IAEA does, especially to support and promote women.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very important issue. Very important issue indeed. When I came to the IAEA had 28% of women professionals, 28%. And I was told, because I asked, that of course the sector, and you know this very well because you are WINS, that in nuclear you have the problems of the STEM sector in general, combined with the fact that nuclear is male dominated even more than other engineering, mathematics or technological professions. So it would be a useless effort. So of course this is what needs to happen, so that I do exactly the opposite. And I said when I started, by 2025, this organization will be gender equal. I am at 48% from 28 in 4 years. Am I recruiting women on the streets? No. It's a matter of working, it's a matter of reaching out, it's a matter of saying to countries, there are countries, you know, that they say, we want women and we promote women, and they came with 3 men candidates for a position. And I was saying, I think there is a contradiction here. So I think this issue is extremely important, but what is extremely important as well is to try to provide opportunities structurally. This issue is, what I'm telling you is real, and I am proud of this. But frankly speaking, this is the easiest part, to take, to be in charge of an organization and make sure that there are equal opportunities for all. It's not, I mean, it's challenging, but it can be done. The important thing is to open up opportunities, and this is why I established the first ever fellowship for women in nuclear, the Marie Sklodowska-Curie Fellowship Program, which has now benefited more than 600 women all over the world to complete their masters in nuclear. And I must say, very interestingly, because again, this prejudice and unconscious bias may work, and people, maybe they are, yes, they are, you have women in nuclear law, whatever. 70% nuclear engineering women. Again, we have to create the opportunities. And now we have created a second program, which is called the Lise Meitner program, which is for women who, like you, I suppose, are already working, are in the nuclear workforce. We offer opportunities. We take them to national labs in the United States, to companies, to places where they can improve their opportunities. So this is my opinion. Need some water.
Yes, go ahead. Just a moment. Yes, of course. I'm sorry. We have still time for 2 more questions. Yes, please.
Very much for this interesting presentation. I was wondering, and I think we are all very scared what's going on in the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Can you tell us there a little bit more? Because it's a little bit strange. It disappeared from the mass media, according to my understanding, within the last couple of days.
Well, as I was telling you, we have a permanent presence at Zaporizhia. We have a team, a dedicated team that lives there. Rotates, is not the same group. We are already at the 19th rotation, so 20 teams of the IAEA have started since I went there for the first time in September 2022. So the work of this team is, you know, their function has different aspects or facets. The first is to inform what is happening. You may have seen that, but by and large, there is no fake news coming from Zaporizhia. Why? Because the IAEA is there. And I mean, people can say there is something horrible happening. You know, we have an update more or less every other day since we started there. And for those who care to read these things, you will see that this is certified information, pretty technical. So we are every day there. What are we doing? We are doing walkdowns. We do inspections of different parts of the 6 reactors or all the safety functions. So we are checking what is happening. We also have a complex but still professional interaction with the Russian management. The Russians are in charge. So we are there. We talk to them, we consult with them, and on occasion, when they take certain decisions or they want to do certain things about which we have a different opinion, we express them, and sometimes they pay attention to what we have to say. If you ask me about what is happening and what is the situation, I would describe it as a very, very precarious situation. We should never forget that this plant is on the front line. So you have the Dnipro on one side, that is the Ukrainian territory, and on the other side is the Russian occupied territory. When I go there, it's quite dramatic. You come to a place, you step out of an armored vehicle, surrounded by Ukrainian soldiers with flags, and 200 yards down a destroyed bridge, there are guys with Russian flags. And then we have to walk through a minefield. So we have deminers each time we go, because they put mines every 3 or 4 hours. So we have to go through the demining. This is what the IAEA inspectors have to do. And then you go up, and when you go up, there is a guy that greets you saying, "Welcome to Russia." This is the reality. This is the reality. This is the real world. It's not a movie. There will be a movie, I'm sure, but or a Netflix. But this is the harsh reality. And so being at the front line, what happens is that it's an active combat zone. It's an active combat zone. So you may have periods of relative calm. Then one day, as it happened on beginning of April, then you have drones attacking the plant. So, or most importantly, and for engineers in the house, 9 blackouts. 9. So 9 times that the biggest nuclear power plant in Europe was cooled with diesel generators. In a place where resupply of fuel is not guaranteed. So this is the situation that we are faced with. But as I have said, we continue to be there. We will, when something happens, I am called by the United Nations Security Council, and I go and I brief the countries, and that disagree on almost anything, but on one thing they agree, and this is the necessity to have the IAEA there, to keep the IAEA presence there in Zaporizhia.
Okay, thank you very much. So one last question. Irin, please.
Thank you very much for your inspiring talk and for all you do for nuclear. Without you, we wouldn't be safe enough in Ukraine, in Zaporizhia.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And I can tell you about Switzerland. My name is Irene Ageter. We just handed in an initiative. You probably know Eva Gayane. It's a friend of mine at the IAEA.
Yes.
And we just handed in an initiative in order to be able to build new nuclear power plant. We know we have no time frame for the existing ones, but we need to replace our oldest nuclear power plants in Betznau, as you said. And how do you judge, since you were in Betznau, how do you judge, is it possible to have Betznau longer than 60 years in operation?
Yes. Yes, yes. I think I was really, that's the technical truth, apart from any sentimental feeling. It's the truth. What we see in Betznau is, I think they should bring nuclear engineers from all over the world to learn, to see how this plant is operating safely without any problems. As I was saying during the presentation, long-term operation is the no-brainer. People, and especially politicians, and we understand politicians have different, priorities, and they have to win elections and all of these things. But I think even for them, this is a solution that cannot be ignored, cannot be ignored. I think we, in the case of BESS now, or the many other LTOs, long-term operations that we see all over the world, and you know the agency is in high demand because we do the advisory services for countries that want to do the long-term operation. They ask for a peer review, so we send our people and we give them advice. So I'm sure that this will happen, but what I wish is for new nuclear power plants in Switzerland. I think this makes a lot of sense, technologically and economically as well. So I think this is what is in the cards for your country, I'm sure.
Oh, thank you very much. Your Excellency, I had to go back to the 80s to find a similar guest. In the 80s, we had Adolf Ogi, the Minister of Infrastructure in Switzerland. But I just now found out that you were talking much more in details about nuclear energy than Adolf Ogi then. So what I have to tell you is, since then, we never had a minister, a head of state, or even a head of an international organization. So for us, it's a privilege today that we have you here. And for me, it's a strong sign that nuclear energy is rising again in Switzerland. And with this, I would like to thank you again for your great presentation. Of course, we have presents. We know that they gave you chocolate at the nuclear summit in Brussels in March.
Yes, yes. And they did. The Belgians are in this fight.
Yeah, I know. So
I know.
We are not allowed to give you wine because you have to take a flight back home to Vienna. Yeah. But so we have some chocolate for you. And I can tell you, our chocolate is much better than the Belgian one.
Yes, yes, yes. Very good, very good.
So with this, I would like to give the floor back to our president, Hans-Ulrich Bigler. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, His Excellency, for this great speech. And I think we all could feel your motivation and your commitment to nuclear energy. And we are so glad that you are working day by day for this technology and that you are supporting worldwide the technology to accelerate and to foster also and to overcome the political, sometimes hindrance. Not everywhere, but at least here in Switzerland, it's not always as easy as that. So we are looking forward. We have tomorrow a very interesting program together with the Minister Guy Parmelin, with the members of parliament, with the journalists. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency unfortunately is not able to attend the Städtdiener. But for you, the most important program point is showing up.
Very good.
I invite you warmly to the Städtdiener. Und mit diesen Worten, meine Damen und Herren, möchte ich noch einen Dank verbinden. À cette occasion-là, mesdames et messieurs, moi j'aimerais remercier infiniment Monsieur Jean-Daniel Prat, lui qui était responsable de motiver Monsieur Grossi de venir ici à Zurich et de faire cet discours. Merci beaucoup et puis je me réjouis beaucoup de la collaboration. Und mit dieser Bemerkung, meine Damen und Herren, danke ich Ihnen herzlich für Ihr Kommen, für Ihre Teilnahme, für Ihre Voten und darf die Generalversammlung damit abschließen. Gleichzeitig ist das Städtdiener eröffnet. Alles Gute, herzlichen Dank.